All right, are we on? Welcome everyone to I've got a bit of feedback going on here. Let me drop that down. Maybe that's your mic. I'm going to sit over here a little bit. There you go. Is that better? We're here to talk about the festivalisation of entertainment. We're going to explore what that means in kind of all the facets of culture, in sport and music and food and retail and media, and we're gonna kind of really dig deep into what that really means. But first of all, I'd like to introduce properly our excellent panel. This really is a fantastic panel. I've been fortunate enough to speak at All That Matters a number of times over the years, and this really is a killer panel. So I'm going to introduce everyone. And the names I've got on my list here have all been shuffled up now because they gave us our order. So I'm going to go introduce the Kinny, Head of Partnerships at Magnetic and one of the founders of Cock and Flap, the excellent 15-year-old festival in Hong Kong. So we're going to get Kinny's kind of perspective on very much the Hong Kong festival space and the evolution of what's going on there. James Dick, Live Nation, SVP of Partnerships for Asia, but over the years, traded in sugar commodities, I learned this morning. Yeah, absolutely. But it's been at IMG and Rush, which is an agency involved in Formula One, very relevant, obviously, this week with the Grand Prix in Singapore. Then we've got Srinivvasan from India, Srini to his friends, also from IMG Reliance. We're going to have a really good talk about what festivalisation means in India and Srini's experience as one of the chefs of the IPL, putting that magic together, which is the Indian Premier League of cricket, one of the rock and roll of sport, maybe we could call that. Then we've got Scarlett, CEO of Zebra Media. Zebra Media are behind a lot of music festivals in China, Zebra Festival, Electric Daisy Carnival, which is a Live Nation festival, which was then licensed. Then Scarlett sold that business. Scarlett sold another business to Tencent. So basically, Scarlett's our entrepreneur on the panel. And then finally, Josh, who I've never met before, and we met for the first time today, and we're from the same small town in Manchester in England. Literally, we grew up 10 years apart. He's a bit younger than me. So it goes to show what a very small world we live in, or what a great town Sale in Manchester really is. We're going to talk. I'm Jason Fielding. I'm from Endeavour Global Marketing, which is part of the Endeavour group of companies, which is the home of WME, IMG, UFC, and other brands that you might be familiar with. So this panel is about the festivalisation of entertainment. What does that really mean? We're going to ask everyone in a sec what they think it means. And we live in this rapidly changing world where everything's evolving at a really amazing pace. And we're kind of now part of what, and we're going to touch on this a lot during this panel, we're living in what we kind of call the experience economy. What does that really mean? I guess fundamentally it means that people are spending less money on stuff and more money on experiences as a broad definition across the board, be that music festivals or travel or going out for dinner and posting it. And that posting and that sharing is part of this kind of economy where, you know, we live in this world now where people want to show what they're doing and post it on social media, and there's an increasing competition now for our attention. So in this experience economy, experiences and promoters and providers of events really need to present the best product that they can, and this space is really evolving now in a really exciting way. Of course, it's not that new, and I always refer to Disney and the Walt Disney Company, which is, you know, an amazing company, obviously. And I did a talk at Disney last year, and I said I think the experience economy and experiential marketing, whatever we want to call it, started on July 17th, 1955, which was the day that Disneyland opened. And if you think about it, Disneyland is this really amazing example of Walt Disney taking his brands and bringing them to life in the real world. And then there's retail, and there's music and parades, and this product, if we can call it that was created was then and still is, the best articulation of experiential marketing. Of course, there's lots of other great examples in more recent times, the NFL Super Bowl, Glastonbury. We're going to talk a lot about music festivals. South by Southwest, which was created, the Austin Council just wanted an event to draw attention to Austin. It now draws in 300 plus million a year and is, one of the cultural touchstones in the world. And so there's all these different things that are coming together now at this time, a blurring, if you like, of the cultural lines. But throwing over to the panel now, I wanted to, in no particular order, whoever wants to go first, just wanted to get your thoughts on what does festivalisation of entertainment really mean? Srini.
So I think if you look at defining the word festivalization, I mean, all of us will have different perspectives on it. But I think overall it is a celebration when a community comes together. And this particular, when the community comes together for an event, which is usually calendarized. Yeah. And this festivalization, I guess, runs across, whether it's an event or anything. There's pre, there's during the event, and post. And festivalization sort of goes all across. There's different facets at different points in time. But I think two of the biggest, rather three of the biggest things in India which sort of represent festivalization. First is the Indian Premier League, for which I've been fortunate to be part of. The second is movies, which is Bollywood. In India, and the entire movie industry, as you get into languages, we probably make almost 5 movies a day if you look at all over India. And the third is festivals themselves. India is a country known for its festivals, and all of them play an important part in bringing this whole community together. Cultural festivals, not music. Yeah. In bringing the community together to create this massive thing where there's something for everybody.
James?
For us, I think you hit the nail on the head. We live in an experience economy. So what does that mean for us? Live Nation does huge amounts of festivals and concerts around the world. It's really fans are asking for more. They're asking for more experiences. So we did a global study last year called The Power of Live. And 73% of globally of 13 to 49-year-olds say that now more than any other time in the world, they're looking for real experiences or real life and not digital life.
Oh, was that, 30 to 40?
13 to 49-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah. And we do a lot of business in China, but when you look at the stats from China, that jumps to 96. And 96% of 13 to 49-year-olds are crying out for real-life experiences and not just digital life. Everyone's got a phone, everyone's super connected, but maybe not connected. So for me, when you take a simple, back in the 80s and 90s, and you took a simple sporting event, I mean, here's a good example. A lot of us are around for the Singapore Grand Prix. Formula One's massive. It's one of the biggest sporting platforms in the world. It's got huge interest. But if you ask people, okay, what's the one Formula One Grand Prix you would go to? They would argue probably Singapore is the jewel in the crown. And for me, that's because it's not just Formula One. They've added a huge music element to it. And, the sum of its parts is much more than just a sporting event. It's a cultural event. And so for me, the festivalization of entertainment is music as well. People don't just go for music. They go for an experience. Okay, so it's much more that experience economy.
Yeah. Kinny?
I do agree with James. I think I share similar kind of thinking behind the festivalization for me as well. It's very much dictated by what people actually really want nowadays. And then I think we all know that people don't want to just go to a single event for a single purpose. They're looking for way more that they can share, they can talk about. And so if it's even like a music festival, yes, of course, the core is about music, but then it's also about French socializing. It's also about F&B experience.
A lot of people go to music festivals now and don't listen to any music.
Exactly. A lot of them, they don't even know, the band or a single name of the artist, but then they just want to be there, to be part of it, to be part of the experience. So to me, it's very much, that's what festivalization means.
Scarlett?
I have slightly different opinion here. I started my first festival in 2008, which is the Zebra Festival, and my festival has been always focused on the population around 15 to 25, which is a bit different from the other festival that I've been to, like Coachella or Glastonbury. In average, in the last 3 years, I went to Burning Man. The average age is about 35. So if we're talking about a younger demographic, I think there is a huge shift, at least what I see from China. I think the millennials, they are much more likely to stay home instead of going out. There is a need of going out to go to gathering events, but the event has to be very good. Because at home, we can do everything. You get home delivery, e-commerce, you can date online, you can listen to all kind of music you want, you can play games. So it's very convenient in China to stay home. So if you want to still attract those young people to come out, it has to be not a single form of entertainment. So it has to be food, connectivity, interesting contents to bring them together. So there is two sides of the story. One is, yes, there is a still huge demand for offline festivity, but the online experience is getting very good. One very good example I would like to, when we talk about the festivalization of entertainment, we're not talking about only offline, right? We're also talking about online. So very good example I would like to share with you, which probably most of you know, is the attempt that the game company is trying. They're organizing concerts, events inside the games. So Marshmallow recently did a concert inside the Fortnite.
First gaming concert in the world.
Yes, and they attracted 30 million people went inside to see Marshmallow playing inside with Avatar. So that is really a shocker to us. For our events, we can maximum attract in China. Every event, 3 days, over one weekend, maybe maximum we can get 60,000. If we get a permit, 60,000 to 100,000 the maximum, but 30 million people at the same time with 5G coming.
First global festival, maybe.
Yes, and with 5G coming, it's going to be an amazing experience online. So
Josh,
what are we going to do with offline? Right?
We'll
going to
explore
provide
that in detail in a bit. Josh, your amazing, shameless sponsors plug at the beginning shows us that your events are a kind of more rounded entertainment product. What's your view of festivalization?
I suppose I come from a more tangible, from an event production perspective, much more tangible, kind of physical, what do we do, what do we put there to make the experience good? But ultimately, we're talking about entertainment. The first and foremost, most imperative thing is that it's fun. So whatever elements we're putting there, like Scarlett says, have to be of quality. It's very easy to fill a field full of loads of cool things. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're connected or that the consumer's getting a valuable experience. I think the festivalization of entertainment is also a bit about discovery. So the element of surprise. Yes, people know what they want. They understand what they like. But there's nothing better than going to a music festival or carnival or an event and finding something, experiencing something that you otherwise wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I was at a music festival in Amsterdam recently, and there was this natural wine bar there, and it was like, wow, this is so cool. I've never drunk natural wine. So I think the discovery and new experiences that we as event producers can curate really tends to add to that experience. I think connectivity between the tangible and the online community as well is something that's really important, that's possible to give that experience, to enhance that experience. So it's the tangible, but then how that mirrors with with the online community.
Yeah.
So the Marshmallow is a perfect example.
We're going to talk about a lot of different types of entertainment, but first we want to focus on music festivals, and it's fair to say that maybe music festivals embraced this concept of bolting on different areas early in the game in the 90s, and James and Kinny want to just have and Scarlett talk about kind of music festivals. Live Nation's at the forefront of a lot of this. What's your philosophy?
I mean, just don't want to bore you with a little story, but I first went to Glastonbury in the UK in '92. I last went in '97, and if anyone, hands up, who's been to Glastonbury in the UK? Okay, a handful. It can either be a glorious sunshine or it can be absolutely downpour. And we turned up, in those days there was no Instagram, Facebook and stuff like that, so 5 of us turned up. And it was Wellington boots. I think I lost my right Wellington boot in the first 5 minutes. And it was a great experience, went for the music, we really enjoyed it. But what sticks in my mind was the toilets or the loos. It was 150 metres of pig trough. And it scarred me for life. So you've got that element.
You vowed to make that experience better for the world.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, as a festival owner and operator, you've got to think to yourself, look, there's a better way than, a pig trough. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, this was back in the day. I think what you've got nowadays is this trend that I mentioned earlier, is the way that technology and communication has changed. I didn't have a mobile, we didn't have Instagram. People are connected like ever before. And so we talk about, online, people are taking photos of these events and sort of sharing this experience as in, look at me, I'm having a fantastic time. I wouldn't have necessarily done that at that moment in Glastonbury. So as a festival owner and operator, it's two things. One, people are craving these experiences. It's got to be the best experience possible. And secondly, our fans are the real headliners. And they're the ones promoting our events. So we want that experience for them to be as best as possible. So I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. Experiences and the advent of sort of technology and communication that has forced our industry to really, grow with the times.
Kinny, what's it from a Hong Kong perspective? How have you seen music festivals and Cock and Flap evolve over the years?
I think we do have a kind of like a accidental philosophy. It's very audience-centric, and what they need, what they want, and what they're thinking. But it's the reason why I'm saying accidental. It's because I think when we first started, it's a very small group of people, and then
the founders
and then we're a very, very small group, and then but at the same time we all come from different cultures, and we all have different experience. And then when you put an event out there, and then the first thing you think of is what do people need, what do people want, and then so of course you think about you and your family, maybe all your friends, and then that's how we establish this thinking. And then as the market also evolve into very much of what actually connects with them, and also getting the real feedback in terms of the experience. With more and more, it becomes a
You were doing proper marketing. You were looking at the market and going, what do people want? Exactly.
So, like James saying that also it's because of we are so connected now, and then it's so easy to understand and to get insight from the market. I think that is something that really pushes us into a space that's we create the experience based on what the audience wants, and again to the same point of we have the big names and the headliners to promote the events, but at the same time we draw all the people now come to this place, and what can we offer and to this audience, and keep them coming, and keep inviting the new people to come and discover as well. So I think that's the key, I would say.
Srini, your focus is sports over not music festivals so much, and really want to hear how that IPL and festivalisation kind of came into what is now one of the biggest sporting properties in the world.
The biggest. It's bigger than a World Cup. So if you look at
It's really bigger than the World Cup in terms of audience numbers?
Numbers-wise, yeah. Majority of the audience, any which way, comes from India.
Yeah.
So from an eyeball-to-eyeball comparison, it has more viewership than the cricket.
Amazing.
Yeah. So if you look at IPL, I was fortunate enough to work on the brand, what does IPL stand for? And it was not that difficult actually, because we coined a term which was called cricketainment.
Cricketainment. Love it.
Which is cricket plus entertainment, very, very simply
I got
put.
that.
Yeah. So it was defined in such a way that inside the boundary, on the field of play, it's serious cricket, where guys, the best in the world, play and they can kill each other, right? But surrounding that is the entire concept of festivalization, as we put it. So if you look at a fan journey from when they enter the stadium, so the match is usually at 8 o'clock. The temperatures in India when IPL is played is close to 40-45 degrees. It's really hot. In spite of that, you get absolutely packed stadiums. So they're standing in line, gates open at 5:30.
And for those that don't know, how long does the IPL run?
45 days.
45 days.
45 days.
It's
April, May.
It's like a World Cup. It's not a half year season.
It's an intercity franchise cricket model played between 8 teams, and teams play each other home and away.
Yeah.
So people are queuing up at 5:30 in the evening. That's when gates open. So as they walk in, they're greeted with a lot of music, fanfare. They can click pictures. There's augmented reality where they can sort of have a picture clicked with their favorite players, upload it, go dancing, eat something, drink something, go to the stand. That's when players come out and start warming up. Sometimes in between there's a performer, a singer, or a band which comes and performs for people who come early. The performance sort of shuts down at 7:10 when players start coming and warming up. There's still music dance going on, and it's a party all around. 8 o'clock is when the match starts, and cricket is a game where the game stops for 30 seconds after every 3 minutes, which is 1 over of 6 balls. So after every 3 minutes, you have an opportunity for them to break out into a different song, into a different dance, in a different language. And this party continues till 11 o'clock at night. What happens? There's a law in certain cities in India now where music is not permitted after 10 o'clock. So the fans have figured out a way of entertaining themselves from 10 to 11. They sing, they dance, they do whatever, and the noise is as loud.
If it's not amplified, then it's okay. Yeah.
It's as loud. So again, through this journey, I mean, there is the match going on, and there are friends who are watching at home. And from 100 million unique people viewing it on TV 9 years back, it's 460 million people viewing it. Stadiums are full, at least 1.5 million people in the stadiums. On digital, you've got more than 200 million unique people watching it on OTT, and this is not counting people in pubs, restaurants, bars, etc., who go and see this. So it's sort of really brought the whole country together for that period, and I think very soon they'll classify it as a national festival.
And do you think it would have been as successful had it not had all these other components, if it was just the cricket?
Not at all. Yeah. Because IPL sort of revolutionized this, and T20 cricket was invented in England, like the regular cricket, was. And cricket was pretty much a serious game, and IPL sort of brought the party element out of.
A lot of sports, I think, a lot of sports now have to rejig their brand, right? A lot of sports are 50, 100 years old, and young people now kind of going, okay, that's not for me. We talked about esports. How does the traditional sports, and there's no more traditional sport than cricket, how do they present a different product?
Well, I think if you look in the States, like a lot of the, Major League Baseball is suffering with, it's got a much older demographic, and, I head up media and sponsorship for Live Nation, so I'm speaking to brands and how brands can be culturally relevant. They're trying to attract a lot of brands, a millennial, younger type audience. So I know a lot of sports properties globally are struggling with that. Their audience is skewing slightly older, and a lot of the brands that they're speaking to want
15 years ago, when we were trying to sell sponsorship and we were competing against football and cricket, it was a hard sell, right?
Yeah.
I'm calling about a music festival, and they were like, okay. Now it's
change 180.
Scarlett, I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk about the festivalization maybe of content. We talked about media earlier. And I think it's, we're in this really interesting space now with streaming platforms, and you mentioned earlier that people are staying at home, they've got great choice, and the actual kind of the way they interact with those platforms is kind of a festivalization of content. You've got content makers now bringing those shows to life in the real world. Stranger Things did an amazing crazy circus, and I think Walking Dead did some zombie apocalypse day in LA. And from you've got a really amazing media background. How do you see that as part of this ecosystem?
As I said before, I think the physical festivals will still go on, but if you want to tag on to the younger demographic, I think the established brand, they have their royal audience base, will go on for years. But if you want to continue to attract a younger demographic, I think there will be a huge shift in content variety. So it has to focus on not just watching some show, not just booking some artists, but as actual physical experience of certain things like food, sports, But sports now is facing a major challenge, which is esports. Because everybody's playing video games and it turning into some kind of competitive sport.
Is it fair to say the broadcasters, they're competing with our attention, right? We're all...
Absolutely.
So the broadcasters have to up their game, and those broadcasters that just think things are going to stay the same are going to lag and fall behind.
Just to sort of answer, that's a very interesting point you bring along, because experiences, as she mentioned online experiences, I mentioned about stadium experiences, I mentioned about experiences at a music festival. They have to be different types of experiences for different platforms.
Yeah.
So whether it is, if you're viewing it at home, I think Star did a very good thing with Hotstar to encourage viewing on your mobile. There's a concept called watch and play, wherein you need to predict what's going to happen the next ball, whether it's going to be a 1, 2, 4, 6, and their viewership pretty much doubled. The time spent on it doubled, because they gave an experience of the viewer being part of the action. And yes, pretty much everybody's an expert in cricket in India. So they give them a chance to say, oh, you're an expert, go for it. And they won a lot of prizes. So they doubled the time spent by just giving them an experience of participating while the game was on.
Yeah, our experience is everything from just the stuff we do, right? And how do we... Josh, you've the Great Entertainment Group, you've got some really amazing brands. Wanted to just get what's the secret sauce there with the Carnival and the different products that you produce?
So, we started the Carnival concepts in Hong Kong 5 years ago. We've since produced 7 to 8 full-scale carnivals in 2 territories between Hong Kong and Singapore. We've probably seen over 6 to 7 million customers. So we've really seen an evolution of the product, on not only of the product, but actually of the demographic and the customer. It's a bit of a weird one in that it's a family event that really should attract everybody, from the grandmother and the grandfather who wants to bring the grandchild out to play. But really the way it's evolved, a lot of it's been the integration of brands and experiences, and I think there's a link between the two. Working with the likes of AIA, Prudential, we've done some brilliant stuff with Tesla, which includes kind of STEM programs, community programs, outreach programs. And that's in turn given us a lot of additional content to be able to promote. As times progress, we always have a foundation. So there's always a single foundation, which for the Carnival products has always been rides, games, and food. And they are, thrill-seeking.
So very much a family entertainment.
Very much family. But then we've always, for the last 3 or 4 years, had what's called like an additional feature. So for example, we brought in a circus for the last 2 years from the UK. Very accessible, family fun, reasonably priced entertainment. A couple of years ago, we brought in a product from the South Bank called Udderbelly. Udderbelly is a music, arts, drama festival that came to Hong Kong and added as a feature. So for us, it's always been about maintaining a foundation, but adding in additional elements of surprise and intrigue and exploration, where people could come and do something that they didn't actually expect to do, which I suppose is, back to the original question, an example of the festivalization of entertainment. music, we've recently signed a deal with Billboard Radio China, and we, at the Carnival 2 or 3 years ago, we did a Billboard Radio Live. So we did some awards, and it was pretty wacky, but we did a Billboard Radio Awards and concerts inside a circus tent, an old school, big top circus tent. Rita Ora came and did a show. It was all very weird and wonderful, and people like that element of surprise. So for us, it's been an evolution of maintaining a foundation, but also sourcing content. And there's so much great content out there, which is fun. You come here, and whether it's esports or whether, and which is another thing which we try and have to embrace, but not the easiest thing to embrace in an outdoor live environment. If you're in a stadium, for example, much more accessible. So for us, that's the fun of every year. We don't necessarily have such a fixed schedule of what we can do. We have the open mind, but the ability, with our sponsors and with our partners, to go and seek alternative means of entertainment.
So you mix it up every year. Do we have to do that now? Like every year, do we have to? There was a time when, like the FA Cup, right, didn't change for 100 years. Do we have to do this now? Do we have to constantly evolve? Are we going to run out of places to evolve, or how do we? When do we stop and go, okay, we've got the model right? Or do we just keep going?
It depends on if you want to acquire new audience base. I mean, you can always give feedback to your loyal customers, but if you want to keep revamping the audience, you have to keep bringing new content with the new generation.
I think maintaining quality, though. So like I said before, you can do as many things as possible. All that matters, from gaming to live entertainment, music, family experiences. There's so much out there, but I think brands and events must maintain some form of identity, so that they have a clear demographic of who they're trying to target. Otherwise, you can't actually target everybody. You can do your best, but if you want to hone in on an audience, just keep quality and some level of consistency, and have an identity. And then you look at the likes of Glastonbury and Coachella, who are huge music events. They have identity. They have a loyal fan base.
We touched on brands. Oh, go on. Sorry, Srini.
So I think great point that they bring about. Because earlier, audience was fragmented by event or property. But now, with the rising advent of platforms, there is an audience for each platform. People who might be on Facebook might not be on Instagram. For example, a fashion show. Our company did a fashion show which was only on Instagram. So I think it's ever evolving. While
now you've got people who are just on TikTok, and
absolutely.
How do you find them, and what are they into?
There is an audience for the physical stuff, there is an audience for the online stuff, and it'll be fragmented further as we go along.
Yeah. We talked about brands. I want to talk to you guys a second about the role brands play. They've really kind of become a big part of this ecosystem. What's in your experience? Have they really come along for the journey? They're an important part of the mix now, right?
Well, for Clockenflap Instant it's very important, because we treat brands, or we call them our partners, and we really want to treat them as become part of the festival and part of the contributor to the experience, to the audience. So that takes quite a bit of work or nurturing, and especially I think from I'm talking from the Hong Kong market perspective, and it's a small market, and then also once one trend or kind of like one formula works, and most of the brands tend to stick with that. And then festival as well, music festival is a very new concept in 12 to 15 years ago in Hong Kong. It basically doesn't exist. And then for brands to starting to get involved and also understand what it is, and the difference between a festival and a trade show, buying a package, then you get a booth to do what you want, or to be part of the programming. It's a long journey. But now, of course, myself being in there throughout the whole journey, and brands now, from my perspective,
they're open now.
They're really way more open and come on board as really treating us as like a partner that we create together that makes sense for the audience, and ultimately, of course, that's what the results that they're looking for, which is happy audience and happy with what the brands are bringing to them at the events.
and for Live Nation brands, big part of the business.
Yeah, I mean, look, our belief is that for brands to be relevant today, they need to be in moments that are culturally relevant to their audience, right? And we've discussed that music events are part and parcel of most, the relevant.
Certainly young people.
Certainly young people. The question is this, how do you do that? We have roughly about 7 million festival goers a year. We sell, or we have 100 million people go to our concerts globally every year. So, when we did this global research study last year, we spoke to 25,000 people, which is significant. And the really interesting point is selling sports, and we talk about traditional media and how that has changed to become fragmented. We talk about the old traditional media model of being quite intrusive. So you want to be authentic. How do you be authentic?
We're exposed. I read the other week to 10,000 brand messages a day.
There we go. I mean, how do you possibly get cut through that? So two interesting sort of key top-line facts was that out of all the people that we surveyed, 9 out of 10 people at our festivals would actually welcome brand involvement. If you can deliver an authentic experience to me and integrate in an authentic way, I welcome you. I mean, bang.
Yeah, it's up to the brands to embrace the space and go, right, how am I going to make this experience better?
Absolutely. And that could be really simple. I went to a festival the other day, Cisco. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily relate Cisco to music, or I didn't. Cisco are a global partner, and turned up, and I don't know, anyone who's been to a big event.
Yeah, Cisco Lounge.
The Cisco Lounge VIP experience, but what really helped me out was, I was trying to Wi-Fi and text my wife, right? And I've been to 50,000, 60,000. As soon as you get to a certain scale, you just can't get Wi-Fi. And so we look at it as very much, a fan journey. And in terms of your question earlier, can successful events still evolve? Of course they can, because we look at pain points or our fan pain points, and we turn those into brand opportunity. Yeah. So if a brand can then take ownership of that pain point, there's an immediate connection. So I went and literally Cisco sorted out my Wi-Fi, the response to the Wi-Fi, of course, but I could connect and send some cool photos to my wife, which didn't really help because she got particularly jealous that I was having a good time and she was looking after the kids, but c'est la vie.
Josh?
I think it's inevitable for all of us sat here that we're reliant to some extent on brands. They are partially the lifeblood of what we do because we're in live entertainment. And it's very important to understand what they want to achieve. When you understand what the brand wants to achieve, whether it's data, and data is a whole separate minefield of discussion when, as we develop relationships with brands, and if they want data, it's how that data is handled, which I'm sure there's probably another session on somewhere. But understanding what they really want to achieve from the demographic, from the audience, can help develop the experience that the brand can offer. We can give a brand a space all we want, and they can build an amazing activation or installation, but really focusing on what they want to achieve as a brand within the event is just something that we found helpful.
15 years ago, I sold a lot of festival sponsorship. We used to say, refer to it as a media channel, and brands would be like, what are you talking about? And slowly that kind of, it popped and brands kind of went, I get it now. And we ended up doing a deal with Mazda, I think it was, for a festival, and they paid for the filming, and we did a deal with Channel V and shot the festival, and it was kind of a package deal, and it's a more efficient way now, if it's done right, than putting a traditional campaign together. Maybe controversial, but that's it.
A question for you. Have you had any crazy requests, though? That you were like, whoa, no, you can't do that.
Our crazy requests come for data, for mass data, which twofold is difficult to obtain in today's media, especially at a live event. Like, to some extent, you don't really want to be handing out your email address, so then you kind of embrace technology and how we can integrate it into ticketing, or how we can integrate it into other areas of data capture within events. Sponsors that want like 50% data capture rate, it's just not achievable in that, or like, it's not, I don't think it's realistically achievable. unless you're a solely, purely online ticketed event. If you're a purely online ticketed event, so you're a music festival that sells out 100% before you open, then data is a lot more achievable. Whereas for us, for the Wheel, for example, 10 to 20% is online tickets. For the Carnival, 20, 30%. So, we still have customers that turn up on the day who are not interested necessarily in providing you with their information. They just want to come and have fun.
No, I was just going to add on what Josh is saying about the understanding what the brand's trying to achieve, but also to understand what the brand really stands for as well, and then to help them to figure out a role that it's meaningful to the audience, and then that is the most authentic way that they can connect with the audience. But that we served as a very important role to help the brands basically holding their hands to understand our event or our festival, but at the same time we also need to spend a lot of time and effort to understand who they are and find the right way or a role for them to serve a genuine role to the audience, and that is not just a one-off thing as well. That can build on to years to come, and then like our audience, and now it's because we have lots of long-term partners or brands that work with us. They have been build up these kind of connection with our event, but also with the brand as well, and then looking forward to what sort of new things or experience that they're going to see, because it's kind of like an exclusive experience as well, that you don't get from a shopping mall from the same brand, but you get it from a festival like Cotton Flower.
We'll talk about shopping malls in a second. Scale that up, 100 million ticket buyers, patrons, and the IPL bigger than the World Cup. Data and insights now is we moved on from Glastonbury's 50th, not Glastonbury, Woodstock's 50th, isn't it? Yeah. We've moved on from those days. Data and insights now is driving decisions that you're making, right, for programming.
Yeah, I mean, when I started in the industry years and years ago, actually, at IMG, they had a consultancy and insight division, and I thought that would be a good place to start because I could get to understand, a myriad of different businesses. So I'm a big fan of data and insight. So look, I've referred to, we did this Power of Live study last year, which was 22,500 people, I think, globally. But what we also did for the first time is we did a psychometric test. We got a number of different concerts. We rigged everyone up to heart rate monitors and measured people's emotions as they listened to music, and we were able to draw some really interesting parallels with the quant data, with this qual sort of data to showcase that, again, people are more, when they're emotionally in tune, they're more open to brand messages, which, from my perspective, when I'm sitting down with brands, trying to understand what they're trying to do and how they can associate with our events and our platforms, that's really powerful. Yeah. And also, from a pure operational point of view, and improving the festival and the product. One of the things that we're going to launch next year, we've done it very successfully in the States and we've done it in the UK and Germany, is we're going to launch something called Soundboard, which is our own proprietary panel of real fans giving us real insight 365 days a year, which is great. Which artist do we want to see come and perform in Singapore? We can ask those sort of questions.
So in the old days, you'd look at the charts, right, and go,
yeah, absolutely.
And now maybe you're looking at streaming numbers and going, okay, but you're going to get your own proprietary insights now. And with the IPL, you must really lean on the data and the insights that you get there to.
No, absolutely. I guess the first point is when you mentioned about brands, and Josh brought up a good point, saying that what is it that the brand is looking for? India is not a very evolved sponsorship market as yet, because it's an advertiser-driven market. So pretty much everybody, like you say, 15 years back, you said, what's the media value of this? They still ask, what's the media value of it? IPL kind of changed that quite a lot, because if you look at the jersey, the logos on the shirt, which is technically sponsorship, it's second only to Formula One. So brands started realizing, okay, I can actually leverage this asset in multiple ways, depending on what their objectives are at that point in time. And secondly, in terms of, data, different brands do it for different reasons, and the kind of data, yes, we sort of collected overall is predominantly driven by television and digital. So yes, we do, like I said, sentiment analysis. We do how different audiences reacted to this team's defeat, and so the next match, the marquee match next year, is between those two teams to start with. So yes, we analyze and crunch a lot of data, and then take decisions which sort of helps the league grow overall next year in terms of viewership as well as attendance.
And as well as data, Scarlett, technology now plays a big role in our events, and you've got very much a tech background, sold all of your businesses to Tencent. How do you see technology being part of this ecosystem of festivalization?
I think there is a huge change will make the technology impact on entertainment. First of all, I think in terms of, we were talking about data collection. For China, we have two major companies, as you know. We have Tencent and Alibaba. So Alibaba is everywhere, with everything you buy is related to Alibaba, and they have all the data. It's very, very big data collectors. I don't know if our festival, the data we collect, has much impact on the data they already have. To be honest, I really don't think our data we were doing like how many, 10, maybe 20 festivals and concerts a year is really minimum for them. So for the brands we were mentioning now, working with us, the trend for China, the brands want to own the event themselves instead of becoming your sponsors. That is the kind of challenge we are facing. So we end up, the brands will approach us, say, can you do this event for us? So we become like a production company. And that's not what I want, right? We want to have our own IP. So the challenge is very, very big. So I still going back to technology impact in our kind of business. It's the very reason that I sold my business, because I really think the digitalization of experience for the young people in China is huge. It's beyond your imagination. So I want to, if for the next 10 years I'm going to create a new business, I will be very much focused on either the really, really good concept design of an offline experience, something like Burning Man. I think Burning Man is a great brand. To be honest, is Coachella still a good brand? I don't really think so. Because I went to Coachella last year. The average age is 40 years old. I went to Burning Man, I see 6 years old to 15 years old. So what's the difference?
It's been going for a long time.
What is the difference between the two?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Tell us.
Coachella is about music, right? There is experience, some art, but Burning Man is not. Burning Man is about living in the wild on your own. And you have to do the water filtering, you have to build everything on your own. The experience is totally different. The experience for going to Coachella can be replaced online, but the experience of building a physical life on your own for a week is not replaceable. So that's some part I'm still very interested in offline, but it has to be very, very unique.
Okay.
But the online challenge is really coming, especially when we have 5G.
Okay. I'm going to pivot. I'm conscious of the time here and want to get a couple of other points in. The festivalization of talent, where I see this now as another space and another part of the plethora of things that we have to play with and talk about. You know, I'm showing my age here now. I remember George Best, footballer, but then he was hanging out with models and Miss Universes, so he was crossing over a bit in the fashion space, and then maybe David Beckham came along a bit later, and he's now the face of some of those fashion brands, and it's commercialized a bit more. But now we've got this world where the real big celebrities, if we can use that word, they are the hubs inside their own kind of festivalization of their own brand. You've got a Rihanna launching lingerie line last week at New York Fashion Week with DJs and artists and models, and it was a whole kind of thing. You've got The Rock last week launched a wellness, fitness and music event. So what do we think about that? In today's world now, with celebrities and social media playing a vital role, that's an important thing to think about. And Srini, in India particularly, with this.
So I think these celebrities enable festivalization, yeah, and also contributing towards those. So take, for example, Virat Kohli, who's the captain of the Indian cricket team. I mean, he's in the Forbes list of top 100 most earning players, and one of the more, and Time Magazine's one of the most impactful people in the world. So what do? I mean, they have, yes, of course, to start with, they'll have their own clothes line, they will have their own drink, they'll endorse the best brands, they will invest which sort of into newer cool things which might help them in the future. He owns a football club. He's a part owner of a football club. And compared to a Bollywood celebrity like, say, Amitabh Bachchan, who's a legend in Indian cinema for the last 40 years, and while his the stuff that he endorses, etc., will be very different because he's seen as a far more senior figure. But like I said, in India, the cultural festivals are a big thing, and brands and the government uses these influencers, these opinion leaders, to advance festivalization in a way.
And personalities have always been there, right? Babe Ruth and all the great artists from the 60s onwards, and but now they're in control. They've got the ability to lead it, right?
I think it's quite a normal combination that you actually see that it will happen this way anyway. And you mentioned the word talent, and okay, Rihanna, her most famous talent, of course, is her music, and but at the same time, it does not restrict to just one talent. And now, being the influence to the market as well. And then happens that she, like myself, I might be very experienced, festival organizer, but I'm also happens to be a very good cook. And if ever anyone who wants to learn from me, and I can create a book, and then I'm start selling things as well. And that's the start of festivalization. But of course, I'm nobody, but it comes to a name.
Don't say that. Festivalisation of Kinny.
When it comes to a name, then it's a very natural way that it will evolve into the state that what we're looking at, and it will be, to me, it will be a waste that if this doesn't happen.
And anyone else got any thoughts on talent, on Live Nation? You have a management company as well.
Yeah, so we've got four main bits of business. One of our divisions is Artist Nation, so we manage 500 of the world's leading artists. So artists are front and centre of everything that we do. I think it goes back into this modern trend of technology, and everyone's connected, right? So even more nowadays, all the artists are really big social influencers. They've got massive reach, and so it's an obvious as a management.
Katy Perry is the #1 Twitter account in the world.
There we go. So as a management agency, part of our remit is to drive all ancillary revenue. Ticketing and touring is now a huge driver of revenue for artists, but if you've got X million of followers, it makes sense to be able to sort of monetize that in some way, shape or form.
And with Scarlett, we talked about retail earlier, and since sort of the last airing of throw some questions out in a sec. I just wanted to have a quick chat about retail and shopping malls, which you mentioned earlier.
Right.
And, that's another space now where the shops and the retail, they have to evolve as well.
Yeah, I would like to add to that before I want to address about talent, right? I think that another major trend about talent is actually localization. So what I discovered is because although we are connected, but the change of medium, before we work with the traditional media, and now we are working with social media. And social media make you very local because you only interested in people around you. And so that also affects the talent organization of that. Take, for example, before when we were doing Zebra Media, it's all about Chinese pop artists. And then I started to do EDC, which is EDM music. And then I discovered the people in EDM music knows nothing about Chinese pop artists. They are only inside the EDM world, and they are not interested in any other kind of music. It's very localized, and they are very happy together to be in that localized clustering circle of theirs. And the modern technology enabled them to do that. Because before, our new information only come from MTV Channel V, and you're forced to see different kind of music coming from. But now, if you like to have only EDM, everyday EDM, you don't need to listen to anything else. If you're on Spotify, every day you can listen to your EDM. Yeah. So it makes the content becoming more localized. So that's something I would like to address with that. And I think that's what's going to happen in the future festivalization of events. Coming back to space management, which is shopping mall. A huge trend in China is we have lots and lots of shopping malls in multiple tiers of city, right? From tier 1 to all the way to tier 7. And before all these shopping malls, basically the real estate developers, they just build it, fill in with brands and restaurants, and people come, and it's a successful shopping mall. But now it's not working anymore because everybody shops on Alibaba. So nobody's probably happens in Hong Kong as well. I don't know if it's happening in Hong Kong. The Alibaba, the Tencent make it online experience so good, so convenient. Now you go to shopping mall, the shopping mall has to do much better than now. So now if you go to a shopping mall in China, normally 7 to 8, it's like the ones in Singapore, 8 floors. Half of them are restaurants. And the other half, they are bringing some brands, but lots of pop-up shops, and then live houses, small concert spaces. That's what's happening with the shopping malls now.
Very good. All right, our clock is flashing. I want to see if people want to ask questions. So, in one sentence, where's this all going? Kinny, festivalisation, where does it go? Where does it stop? Where are we heading?
I don't think it will ever end, and it's just like life. It just keeps changing, right? And it just keeps moving on. So I see it as a good thing. And the more we're into it, the more we understand what everyone wants and needs, and then just provide the best that we can.
I'd summarise it as development of the fan journey. So focus on and development of the fan journey.
Yeah. Srini?
Well, I think, as you mentioned earlier, the lines are blurring. So I think the future would be, right now we have music plus XYZ. We have sport plus ABC. I think there'll be new IPs developed where it'll be A plus B plus C. So you'll have 3 things without knowing what it actually stands for. Yeah. So there'll be multiple opportunities catering to different demographics. And second, I think, would be experiences of reliving the same experience in another part of the world virtually. For example, you watch a match at Old Trafford, watching Manchester United play, and the same stadium experience with the same chants, with everything, could happen in Shanghai.
And we haven't got time to talk about that, but that whole space is going to be
it might evolve and become a reality in the next few years.
That's next year's panel. Scarlett?
Yeah, I think it's go back to basic. What make us feel good, and that's what it's going to be, regardless what technology is going to change.
Josh, where's it heading? Close it out.
I think the analogy that Scarlett just made between online retail versus physical retail, like for me, I always like to try things, touch things, feel things. I think the same challenge appears in experience, especially with a younger generation who are obsessed by their computers and by computer games. It's our challenge as event producers is to continue to create tangible experiences which are different and which keep people excited.
Very good. All right, I'm not sure if we got time. We've got 5 seconds left. Look at that, timing was perfect. Huh? No curfew fine for us. We got time for questions? Is that a thing here?
We do one question.
One question. My word.
Any questions from the floor? Got time for one question. Don't be shy. Here we go.
I have a question about what sort of digital tools you guys use to reach your audience, and how important is that to be vertical for you to own your own platforms and email lists, or versus using Facebook and other platforms that are out there?
Just to answer from Live Nation's perspective, I mean, digital's critical. We also own Ticketmaster, so we sell about 550 million tickets a year. So capturing that data, understanding who that audience is for us is absolutely critical. The number one reason people don't go to concerts or festivals, they're not aware that the event is on. So if we can solve that, and predominantly we do that through digital, then we grow our business.
That's it. We're done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panel.
Wonderful panel. Thank you.